Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on the 13th, Wednesday, the 13th of December, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. Now, I got a good show for you guys this morning. The first thing we're going to talk about is what's happening on the border. You know, it says hordes of military-aged Chinese men are being brought into the United States as an attempt to what? Question mark. Is this possibly an attempt to destabilize our society? I'll still have memories of the Chinese spy balloon drifting slowly across America. Well, now over the past couple years, vast numbers of illegal immigrants from China have been pouring into a southern border, and most of them are military-aged men. What's that all about? It says they're talking here about it, and I'm not going to go into an awful lot of detail on this, but I'm going to dig myself down to the bottom of this article, and it says that first off, says this is super suspicious, and then it says here, it says, and when war with China finally erupts, and we all know we're slowly moving in that direction, the Chinese will already have thousands upon thousands of military-aged men pre-positioned inside the United States, ready for whatever. Okay, you know, I mean, this reminds me of the old thing about the Trojan horse, you know. They brought a big giant horse as a gift, I guess it was, into the city of Troy, but inside it were soldiers. It also reminds me of the when the Medes and Persians took over Babylon, you know, and they sloshed a group of men inside the city through the aqueduct. You know, it could be something like that, but this is all just question mark now at this point in time. What's going on? You know, we have questions. Of course, we're gonna have questions. We see our economy deteriorating around us all the time, and the world is moving towards something really big. Really big. And America's getting off balance on several different fronts, and more fronts could erupt. We see the Ukrainian front. Well, anyway, listen, Zelensky, you know, right now he reminds me of that skit that was put on by Monty Python, where they were in the quest for the Holy Grail, you know, and they came across this knight called the Black Knight, and he was blocking the way. So their leader went out front and he started to fight the Black Knight, you know, and the Black Knight he was beating him, besting him, but good. And the Black Knight says, "Oh, it's only a flesh wound." And in the end, when the Black Knight was totally defeated, he was saying, "Come back and fight, come back and fight." This reminds me of Zelensky. Putting a bit of humor on the scene, you know. I'm going to put a clip of that in the in my thing there, and you can just click on it. You can go and see what I'm talking about there. You get a good laugh out of it. It is funny, you know. It is funny. Well, here, overwhelming majority of now this is a different subject matter. There's an overwhelming majority of 153 United Nations member states. They call for immediate ceasefire in Gaza. But looking down here, what it says, underlining it right here, it says resolutions adopted by the General Assembly are non-binding. Get that? Non-binding. Because, unlike Security Council resolutions, they do not have the force of international law behind them. Nonetheless, they do carry political weight, and given the overwhelming outcome of the vote in this resolution, it could be considered to reflect the prevailing global view of the war in Gaza. Okay, that's what it says right there by this news company. Uh, let's take a look here. Israel, in this war in Gaza right now, Israel has begun to pump seawater into the Hamas tunnels as Biden is set to meet with hostage families. So they're pumping seawater in. Nothing's going to be able to live in those tunnels when they're full of seawater. Now, down in Argentina, they got a newly elected Argentinian president, and he has begun what's called shock therapy in quotations by devaluing the peso against the dollar. Guess how much he's devalued it by? And this is amazing. He's devalued it by 50%. The peso. Uh, that's a big chop. That means people are going to lose half their money, from what I understand here. Now, that's what I read here, was 50% devaluing of the peso. People are going to lose half their money because when they convert, if everything's running on dollars. But I guess they're all taking a haircut. It says the administration of Argentina's elected president, Javier Milei, has announced that it's devaluing its currency by more than 50% against the U.S. dollar as part of a drastic effort to combat the nation's economic woes. Now, moving over to Ukraine. We were just talking about Ukraine a minute or two ago. I was joking about Zelensky with being the Black Knight. Well, it is kind of funny. But this isn't funny. In the Ukraine war right now, dozens are wounded in Russian missile strikes on Kiev. They're now striking Ukraine at its heart. And not just with bombs. They're striking them. They're striking them with telecommunications service being cut and stuff like that as well. I don't know how long they can hang in there with Kiev being bombed. We'll have to wait and see. Now, rifts between Biden and Netanyahu are spilling into public view. So, it's not all roses and flowers in this strange marriage between. It's all turning sour, evidently, sort of. It says here that rifts between the United States and Israel spill into public view Tuesday as President Joe Biden warned that Israel was losing international support for its campaign against Hamas. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu publicly rejected American plans for post-war Gaza. The divides, which until now had mostly been contained behind the scenes, reflected growing differences between the two staunch allies as the civilian death toll in Gaza mounts. Speaking to Democratic donors in Washington, Biden voiced criticism of Israel's hardline government and said Netanyahu needed to alter his approach. And speaking about, he said, quote unquote, it's in quotes here, I think he has to change, and with this government in Israel is making it very difficult for him to move, Biden said, calling Netanyahu's government the most conservative government in Israel's history. He warned that support for the country's military campaign is waning amid heavy bombardment of Gaza and added that Israel's government doesn't want a two-state solution. Biden said right now Israel has the most of the world supporting it, but said they're starting to lose that support by the indiscriminate bombings that takes place. And that's what was said. Okay. Moving on to other stories. They had this big COP28 summit. And I was just sitting here looking at this picture, you know. Let me see if I can expand this. Can I expand this picture? I don't know. Showing a little expand thing, but it ain't working. Uh, I was very impressed by that giant platter. Looks like a giant plate that they've suspended and illuminated above the people who are in the conference. That thing's huge. It covers the whole auditorium. It must be as big as a football field. And it says United Act or something. Unite, act, deliver or something. Unite, act, deliver. And it's got all these little symbols on it. It's got a sun on there. It's got. That must have cost a fortune to build that. They're just going to use it for a day or two, I guess. What are they going to do with it when they're over with their big summit? Are they going to take it down and dismantle it and end up in some scrapyard someplace or something like that? I'm wondering, you know. But they had 70,000 people there at this big summit, you know, and they had things to say a lot of things to say. They're very worried. They're they're uh, they're all thinking about nothing else but this. Now the world is falling down right now, and there's things that I'm concerned about, very concerned about. But this is a big concern to them, you know, and they put great. It's for real. They put a great deal of importance behind this, and you know, it's for real. I mean, they're really worried, for real. They wouldn't have built that enormous thing that's hovering in the air above them there, and it says "Unite" on it. This shows consolidation, shows that they're all very worried, very concerned. Are you concerned? Core producer price inflation tumbles to 2%. Now, this is like the CPI, except this is the PPI. I think this is it right here, this PPI chart. And what I notice about this chart is tumbled down to the lowest it's been pre-COVID. But pre-COVID, it went down to these levels, but it started to go back up. It started to turn and go back. Right now, we're just tumbling down, down, down. We're already down to those levels, and there's no sign of this thing turning back up again. It's like that old AC/DC song, Highway to Hell. That's where it's going. Highway to Hell. I can just see this thing going right down below the chart very soon. This PPI. And I think that the CPI is probably going to do the same thing. We're heading into something very, very massive and very, very dark and very, very nasty. And it's in the financial system. They're trying to get America off balance on all these different fronts and all these different wars. When China gets to the point where they know that America is so off balance that they're ready to fall, then China, I think, will make their moves. Boy, they're smart. And there's an old saying, never underestimate your enemy. And I'm going to tell you what. They're playing chess, and the administration over here is playing tiddlywinks. Or snakes and ladders or something. They're playing some stupid kiddie game. But those guys over there, they're playing chess. And they mean to come up with a checkmate at a certain point in time. Meanwhile, what are we doing over here? Well, we're all digging into our phones looking at Tic Tacs and TikToks. You know? Moving on, let's take a look at the financial markets while we're in the business. And seeing what's going on here with silver at 22.65. It's down 11 cents on the day so far. for silver. I would say we're getting down near the bottom now of what they can take it to without problems. Let's just face it. They just, whenever they want to take the price of silver down, they just scribble a whole bunch of pieces of paper with how many ounces of silver, SLV or whatever, just throw it out there into the market and down the price goes. They sell paper short contracts, which are a representation of silver that's called a derivative product. It's supposed to be silver, but actually it's written down. It says 4,000 ounces of silver on a piece of paper. So that silver doesn't exist in the real world. It's just an imaginary silver, but they use that to determine the price. So that's silver rigging for beginners, or what you would call silver rigging for dummies. That's how it works. It's a rigged game. But the thing about it is the miners have a certain real-time, real-world cost associated with actually getting the physical silver. So if they use that paper silver to drive the cost down below the mining production costs for the miners, the game's over. And that mining production cost, well, I mean, when I started broadcasting on my show, it was between $5 and $10 an ounce. And then it went up to $10 to $15 an ounce. And now it's more like $15 to $20 an ounce. That's the all-in cost for these miners to get that silver to your coin that you buy, right? And if something costs pretty near $20 an ounce for them to get it, where's their profit margin if it's only $22.64? So let's just give a typical miner out there, say it costs them $17. And it sells at the place for $22.64. That's not much. An awful lot of other business out there are much more lucrative. In other words, your associated cost of whatever product you're providing, like a lot of hamburger joints. You might see a hamburger joint on the side of the road, and they're selling hamburgers. And it costs them 25 cents to make the hamburger for the buns and meat and whatever. And they charge you $2. Well, there's a nice large profit margin there. Not like this. This hasn't got hardly any profit margin, so they just can't knock the price down to $17. Or that $17 miner out there, he ain't going to mine. It just ain't going to fly. Taking a look at gold today. Gold is $19.80. It's up 70 cents on the day. Cryptocurrency today, we're looking at a Bitcoin price of $42,031. So it's starting to move up a little bit again. It was 41,000 something yesterday, wasn't it? 22.13 for Ethereum, and XRP is 61.4 cents. Taking a look now at the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 26 points at 36,604. And the crude oil price is up 90 cents at 69.51. Now, bonds and rates, what we're looking at falling yields today. The 10-year is at 4.15. It's fell 5.1 basis points. And the U.S. 30-year is at 4.26. It's fell 4.1 basis points. So, yields are continuing to fall a little bit. Considering they were up near 5% there, not too long ago, the 10-year. The 10-year is the one I really watch because it's what they base debt on. U.S. dollar index is at 103.85 today, and it's going along sideways. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. hit that notification icon if you haven't done so before, so you get notified when my shows are produced. But you guys pretty much know Monday through Friday, unless there's a holiday, I'm on here for the most part. And you guys have a great afternoon. Bye bye.